All right, welcome to Spoiler Kings. My name is Shane Kramer with Brian the Grizzly, and we have back with us Brian's father, Dr. Waller. How's it going, guys?
Doing good, doing good.
Another episode of my dad, guys. Stop liking him so much, guys. It's too much.
He's gonna become a permanent member.
I know, like now on every 2 weeks we'll drop something else with my dad. This is gonna happen. I know it's happening. I see it, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, with that being said, last week Dr. Waller and Brian talked about a couple other movies of our Black Excellence in the Cinema series, and today we got another one for you guys, Judas and the Black Messiah. Pretty new one, 2021, was up for Academy Award for Best Picture and a few other ones for actors and supporting actors and stuff, but also based on a true story. And then us being from Chicago, definitely kind of felt a little more at home, or they kind of felt like if it had felt differently.
It was very historic, and you see this on the streets. You feel the South Side in it. You understand what the actors are going through. So it was really interesting. Yeah.
In fact, I've been there in those streets, so I've been over there. So I not only have the feeling of it, I can say, I remember, I can see that. So
was it in black and white?
So we're gonna be like that, okay?
right off the bat.
That's fun.
So we got Brian, you got a quick synopsis of just a quick breakdown of what the story is on this one?
Sure. So we got Judas and the Black Messiah. I do want to say it's directed by Shaka King, which is important. Having a black director, that was pretty awesome. But we're gonna go. FBI informant William Neal infiltrates the Illinois Black Panther Party and is tasked with keeping tabs on their charismatic leader, Chairman Fred Hampton. A career thief, O'Neill revels in danger of manipulating both his comrades and his handler. Special Agent Roy Mitchell, Hampton's political prowess grows just as he's falling in love with fellow revolutionary Deborah Johnson. Meanwhile, battle wages from O'Neill's soul. Will he align with the forces of good or subdue Hampton and the Black Panther Party by any means necessary, as FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover commands? That's a deep synopsis, guys.
Right.
Well, it's a deep movie. It's a really deep movie.
So, Dad, we'll start with you. What did you think about this movie specifically?
Okay. I have a lot of thoughts and I have a lot of feelings, regarding this movie.
Let's go over your thoughts and then we'll go around and then we'll get to the feeling.
Okay.
I think that's a good way to kind of separate the two.
Okay, let's do that. My thoughts are, this is really and I've said it before, multi-layered movie, which really describes and shows the complexity of social forces during the 1980s, and 1960s, 70s, and really seeing that complexity that's going on, whether it's from a national perspective, even all the way to a local perspective, and even to a community perspective. So you see all these different layers of complex social interactions, and that I think they did in each level. They explained and really showed each of them, throughout the movie. So I thought that was fantastic to really see a micro perspective and then a macro perspective, So you saw micro and then the macro, but each step in between, the meso, the exo, and then also the macro perspective. And I thought that was fantastic. I thought the acting was great.
Oh yeah,
I actually believed them.
Lakeith Stanfield. Oh my
Stanfield. God. I believed him.
Was good too. Like these everyone who's doing it was Ashton Sanders. All of them were Martin Sheen. You believed all of them.
You believed them, and so that was really great acting. So I can understand why it was nominated for Academy Award in acting, and I can even say in storytelling. And then, of course, being from Chicago, you can see, the cinema itself. You can see, I remember that street. I can see that street, and it looks like that. So So I thought it was a great, well-written movie, directed movie with all the necessary components of a great movie. So, that's my initial thoughts. But then also the thoughts of the complexity of the story, and the thoughts of how macro political issues, really overpower all of the levels of others political issues, especially as we continue to talk about how capitalism works, and then of course they call it fascism or and socialism works. So
Socialism.
it seems like it's a lot of that, socialism and capitalism, and so you really see a lot of that complexities in the 60s and 70s. So those are just my initial thoughts, but I know we're going to get a little deeper, but I just wanted to at least to start off that way.
Okay. Yeah. Think where are you going? What did you think? Your first thoughts on this?
On this one, just as a movie, it was a great movie, told very, very excellent. And one thing, like Dr. Waller said, was how it's able to go from focusing on one man, friend Hampton, to the movement, and back and forth, and then going through all the different phases of it. I thought that was great, because one moment it's about him and his speech, and then the next moment it's about like the whole movement of the Black Panther Party, and they were able just to phase through them flawlessly, because great storytelling does stuff like that. Also, Ryan Coogler was a producer on this one as well, so that man
filled it.
Yeah, definitely. And then having amazing actors like Daniel Coulier and Lakeith Stanfield, which was Fred and Bill. Those were like great together, because the acting was so spot on. Because like I think you can feel the inner turmoil, or the inner conflict of Bill the whole time. He's like, because at first he's like, yeah, I'm gonna help him out, or I'm gonna help out the police or the FBI. But then as he gets more into it, you're like, he starts to realize this is something. This is not just a whatever. This is something big and important.
This is not what they're framing it as. They're saying that these are are criminals, and I'm starting to realize this is the community almost coming together and fighting back in a different way. And that changes his mind,
But I saw him move from selfishness, self-centeredness, to recognizing community and being stuck. Being stuck. Oh no, I'm looking out for myself here. I'm doing all this for myself, my own pleasure. Then as he got more and more involved in the movement, he began to say, hey, these people are for real. This is not about people
violence
trying to be
or anything else.
Violence or trying to get anything for themselves. They really want to impact the community. So I think that was part of the confusion, and also what do I need to do? I think you were talking about, Tank.
Yeah. So, and I think it being told from mainly Bill as the main character, and I think Fred was there as well, but like going through Bill's viewing of everything, I thought was the better way to go, because then you can see kind of how the Black Panther Party was portrayed and by the media, and then how being part of it changes the views of it, especially just for Bill, and it's a real life thing that's Bill O'Neill, William O'Neill, that's real life. He actually done this, and they show actual clips towards the end of actual O'Neill talking about it, and how it's still years later, how it still affected him. So I thought that was important, going through seeing it through his kind of over his shoulder. I thought was a very the best way to tell this story, of it. But yeah, just my thoughts on the film. It was really amazing. I mean, this was up against other great films in that year of the Academy Awards, and this was up there. I think my second favorite one, I believe. So
after for you. Was
I think it was against Black Klansman as well, I believe.
Yes, you love Black Klansman.
And it was so great. One, I love was it John David Washington and Adam Driver. were in it, and that was a great one. And then this one, again, another true story, and then this one as well. But yeah, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the film.
Okay,
I mean, you guys have really good thoughts. I only want to add my perspective more of knowing the story, but being too young to experience it, to really knowing of the Black Panther Party and how positive it is for the community, but being too young to really understand what they really did and what it really means to the city, what they're really trying to do, what level of respect and how they got that respect. Because when you think about Chicago, that it's you have gangs, and gangs aren't exactly how you see them. It's different, but the fact that you got respect from the gangs because of what you're trying to do was huge. Understanding how crime you have, but you also have problems like you have Cicero. You have places where Black people could not buy houses for years, for decades, for all the times, and so that the system is corrupt. So seeing someone fight back and understanding it and seeing it was totally different, and that opened my eyes to a lot more because I'm about to be 38, so that means I wasn't even born when most of the stuff was happening, but I'm close enough that I know about everything and I can recognize it and seeing it through those eyes and also feeling the conflict was really interesting, and seeing and understanding it too.
Well, Brian, if we follow what you said, you think I'm so old. I was there at the time, so
you were.
But
I saw you running around on the street, man.
I wasn't around.
My dad, guys.
I wasn't around at the time.
Look, guys,
although not too far away.
There's twins. There's twins there. Yeah, my dad,
but not too far away.
They're sitting there in the
movie. But I remember some of the things that we're talking about. One thing, if we're talking about thinking again, just think of it this way. You say Kugler, right? Where is Kugler from? Oakland.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Where did the Black Panthers start?
Yeah, okay.
Oakland.
Oakland, yeah.
The connection from Kugler to Chicago with the Black Panthers. But also, what else? What is Kugler known for? His work in Black Panther, right? And where did they set up the community center? In Oakland. So really, there's a connection between Black Panther and this movie through Kugler.
Okay, I can go with that.
Yeah,
I was thinking about
just the Black Panther term. Just say Black Panther,
But Fred Hampton himself being as charismatic as you, so seeing a young black man in the 70s doing what he was doing, galvanizing the troops, and that he wasn't like Dr. King. He wasn't, but he was young, he was black, and he was galvanizing people. And you start seeing the similarities and how these things were. Because when they said he was under 22 years old, he was 19, 20, 21 years old, that blew my mind. And
so all of them were, though. All of them.
Yeah.
To be able to have these speeches, the things that they were saying, how in depth they were, how intelligent and feeling they were. I mean, that blew my mind every single time. And thinking about that, like, how would you be that mature to you be able to handle it in any certain way? And it wasn't that they fell apart. It was more that they were taken apart by the FBI. And
yes,
that's another interesting point that you see. But that's just my thoughts, the thinking part. How did the movie make you feel? Dad, we start with you, definitely.
Part of it made me angry because to see what our government does
and how far they're willing to go
in order to, again, stop something that wasn't really intended to hurt. It wasn't trying to destroy anything. It was trying to help people, whether it's feeding children or, whether it was really make sure education was given, all those types of things that they were doing. Not so much trying to, destroy anything particular, but raise up a community. So my feelings were angers me, especially when you hear Hoover and what he's saying. Like what he said to like what Hoover said to the FBI agent. What you gonna do when your daughter brings home a Negro?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which was, I mean, it's infuriating. That was like what, and really pushing and really pushing white men to a particular place, saying, if you don't do anything, this is what's going to happen.
You're not protecting your family. If you
Protect
don't
your
do
family. It has made me angry that someone would do that, And then that was one feeling, and that was a feeling. But then it made me sad. I felt sad with you were talking about with O'Neill. It was sad that Bill O'Neill would even put himself in those positions, and it wasn't because he really wanted to do badly. No, he just didn't care and didn't really have any real purpose and meaning. And then he was easily manipulated to do some things. So that was sad that this young black male can grow up in a community and have no really connection to it.
Yep.
And so to me, that was sad too. So sure, I had the anger related to, again, what the government would do, what the FBI would do, what the Chicago police would do, shooting up people, shooting up offices, burning offices and everything for those types of reasons. So it tells you a little bit of the anger of the 1960s and early 70s, And then my last thing I was angry about was, they sued for $47 million and got 1.5, I think, billion dollars. 1.5 million for all the killing and the shooting and the burning and all those types of things. So that makes me angry, that these things will go unmentioned and unpunished. And the sadness that people can be easily manipulated for their own gain rather than seeing things in a deeper way. So I felt both of those ways.
Those are good feelings. I got you.
Yeah.
What about you, Tim? From your perspective?
So like for me, like I didn't know about this stuff growing up. Like I think I grew up in predominantly like Hispanic neighborhood in the city. So we weren't really taught a lot of these things. But I did have a teacher. I believe she was like fourth or fifth grade, and she did mention like the Black Panther Party a little bit, because especially in the 90s, I think you were able to talk about maybe about a little bit more things. So and that's kind of like, it was my first introduction to it, but it never really, nothing else happened until about my high school years. Then you started finding out more about this. I started becoming more of a fan of history, and then you kind of start off with your local history, and then you kind of expand to everything like that. But yeah, finding out about the whole thing, because I didn't know it was like in Chicago. It was our backyard, like that's that for me. That was like, I'm like, that's crazy, because the story I was always kind of told was like it happened, but I'm like, oh, it happened like here, like right here, it's like, so that kind of like made me feel like, especially after watching this and seeing everything that happened, was like, I'm like, man, it was right here. Like, history happened right here. You know what I mean? And so like that was kind of like very interesting, because then you're a little bit more attached to it, because it's your city. It's the city you're from, and like, Chicago has like a reputation to it, and I think for the most part a bad reputation, because of how people like Fred Hampton were labeled, that it's crime because the Black Panther Party was here and they were bad, and then this and that. But it was like they weren't, So like definitely like Dr. Waller, I was very angry, like watching this one and just being upset at the lies, that we were being told, so that was definitely very upsetting. And then a little bit off base, but still kind of connected. The same year this came out, the trial of the Chicago 7 also came out, and part of that was Bobby Seale. who was kind of linked to he was linked with the Black Panther Party, and watching that, he is mentioned in this movie a few times. There's no character. He's not portrayed physically in the movie, but they do talk about him and what he went through on trial because of the Chicago 7 stuff. And what happened there is blood boiling. Like, it is insane that I'm like, after I didn't know this, and I had to look it up and again, like, find out my own history in the city I grew up in, and then this happened, and I'm like, that's insane. So definitely that added to the anger of everything added, plus this. So very, very, very angry and upset, and stuff like that. But for me, it was also like inspiring. I was sad to see, a lot of the stuff that happened, and these young men were taken away way too early before I think they could make even a bigger impact on the world. But definitely inspiring, like hearing Fred Hampton, because I believe they actually put his actual audio towards the end of the movie, and Daniel Kool-Aid did a great job with capturing his whole essence of how he spoke and everything, the essence of it. So that was a great job, because he sounded like him and had the passion behind his voice. So that was like very inspiring that a young man can like go out here and do that. And then it kind of makes you wonder, like you said, Brian, is like, he's young, he's super young. So it's like,
imagine what he would have been able to do at 24. That's why they had to kill him. Because if you let him get to 24, 25, and he starts to understand his impact and and he takes steps of becoming more of a man and understanding his place in the community and how to galvanize people and how to do it and still isolate, and kind of isolate himself and better control everyone that's around him. Then now we have a problem. Because now this guy is going to create a even bigger movement, and it could grow and grow and grow.
But it's a lot of them at that same time. Stokely Carmichael was doing it at the same time. All of these were young men, black men who were 18, 19, 20 years old. All of them followed the mentoring of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So they followed the mentoring of them, because really they were coming out right after them, but they were a little bit more revolutionary than Martin Luther King, but not as Malcolm X. So therefore, these are 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I just need to this is just a historical idea. There's a book called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Okay, and really it's about an black FBI agent who learns the secrets of the FBI and uses it. Very similar to the story that we saw. So these things, like I said, I was around. I was really young. I was really young. But I can tell you, I remember the assassination of Martin Luther King. I was really young, but I remember that event. So I remember some things, but I was really young. But I remember a lot of the stories about the Black Panther Party in Chicago. Since I grew up I was on the West Side, but then I moved to the South Side and began to hear all these stories. So I'm a little bit older than you. Well, of course, much older than you, Brian, but older you, Tank, to really actually have heard firsthand comments about these things, not just just seeing them on YouTube or in talk. So it's really something to hear, your perspectives, both of you. But it just shows how controlling the narrative can really impact how people think, and this is really an example of controlling the narrative and not really knowing the truth until a movie like this comes out.
Well, that kind of piggybacks off what I wanted to talk about. Is I felt bamboozled,
hoodwinked, led astray.
No, I felt that way more because when you hear about the Black Panthers, there's always the negative that you always hear. You only hear about all the negative parts, and you really don't understand how many positive parts there were to it, and how community involved it was, and how the South Side had no one to help them out. And all these groups kind of helped bring it up and to raise it up and try to give it something to look forward to, because no one else cared about the South Side. They just kind of threw it to the side. No one wanted to be on the South Side. No, thought it was worth anything. And then when it started to rise up, that's when you had to knock it back down because that's the problem. It became starting to become a problem. But I feel like there's so many lies that you start seeing, all the time. You see with your government, and you're taught as a young person that your government's there to help you out, to be there for you. And though it's not all, negative, but it's definitely not all positive. And they're doing things to manipulate situations just like anything else. So I felt bamboozled in that sense. And then I felt inspired by it's all the young people's energy, and also felt like I had the answer wrong, because I was like, oh, how come? Why is it that there's no other Black leaders to step up after Martin Luther King, after Malcolm X? Why weren't there anyone there? And now I start to understand that there were a lot, and they all got either thrown in jail or killed. And that's something like you don't see in history. It's something that it takes a movie to be honest and to show you what the FBI was really about. We didn't care about the drug trade because we used the war on drugs to flush a lot of these people out. That's the war on drugs. No, that they put the drugs in the system. Then they went back and arrested these guys. Like it's eye opening, and it's crazy to see. And this is a great movie. And I'm glad that we're able to talk about it. And I hope it drives more people to see it, because honestly, box office, it only made $7.4 million. This movie deserves to make more money, and deserves to be in more theaters, and deserves to get some run. But people don't want to really see the truth. I feel like that's part of the problem. And when we have Black producers, Black directors, Black actors, all these things, it wins, Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. It's one of the best stories of the entire year. And to not get the flowers it's due, I just feel like it's really a terrible thing.
Brian, to continue with the theme of doing these movies of Black excellence, that's, what we've been really talking about. And this is really an example of Black excellence, and as you know, and have said many times, Black History Month is Black history throughout the entire year.
That's the point.
And so it is not just one of the things that we need to watch during February, that we can watch throughout the year and talk about the significance of it and how it impacts. And this is the interesting part, not just how it impacts Black people,
impacts everybody.
How it impacts everyone. Just like, boy, it wasn't really something that Hampton wasn't only focusing on just Black people. He got poor white people involved. He also got, Latino Hispanic people involved. Because again, he had a large coalition. But doesn't that remind you of the movie we just saw before then, the one we talked about, The Great Debaters? What was Denzel Washington trying to do? The same thing. Sure, starting off with Black folks, but trying to expand and including poor white sharecroppers too in the whole process. And it seems like in this
make a movement is by having everybody wanting to pull the same rope, the same direction.
So this is not just about, sure, it's Black excellence, but you can hear the attempt to focus on everybody, not just one group, but all groups who might need assistance. And I think these two movies that we've been watching seem to show that theme of impacting the lives of a lot of people rather than just a few.
I like that. I think we should leave it right there, because leaving that idea of community and togetherness is kind of the whole point. And the fact that we got all that from this one movie is amazing. This movie got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 97%. Like it goes
well deserved,
so well done. I'm glad we were able to talk about this. I'm glad we were able to even share it with you guys. I'm glad you guys are here with us, listening to us. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, please take a chance, take us some time. It's available everywhere. It's available on Hulu. So how about you go just spend a couple hours, it's 2 hours of your time.
And HBO Max.
And HBO Max. So do that. Enjoy it. They're not sponsors of us. We just wanted you to get to see the movie.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching us for another Black Excellence movie. Once remember, we're trying to get the idea that Black Excellence is not just a February. We're starting here, but we're trying to think about all year round. We will continue to do it Tank, I gotta thank you for joining us today because this was
Yes, thank you, Tank.
so good.
Yeah.
And your part made me, because you see it from a different perspective. You coming from the west side, you're Pilsen. Like you're seeing from that, it's just a different as eye-opening and perspective is great. And I appreciate that too.
Yeah. I mean, it's very eye-opening for me, you know, just not knowing these real life events, you know, and how I would say hidden, but kind of hidden, like untold, I think is a little bit better, or but yeah, and how really important they are, because like, I know you said that Black history is like all year, or Black excellence all year round, but also Black history is American history. This didn't happen in a different country. This happened in Chicago, the Midwest of America. That's why it's important too,
within one generation of you, and anyone who's watching, within one generation of you, this has happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So thank you guys. Thank everyone for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
This has been fun.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Dad, for coming in. Thanks, Tank. Guys, we're gonna keep it going. I'm enjoying doing this. I'm enjoying these talks. So please like the video. Please subscribe. Tell us that we're doing a good job so we can continue to do more of this. And we'll see you guys next time. So,
see you.